Hi guys, welcome to Manhood Explained. My name is Camille and today is 17th of February 2020. Welcome to live number 52. Listen, if you had this feeling as a guy in your relationship or in your life in general that you don't feel like yourself, you don't feel like you exist, you don't feel like you have your imprint. Today we're gonna talk about it, because even if you listen to I think 39th or 50th live, I talked about this. But if it wasn't that, today I may be touching subject that will kind of explain it all as it did for me years ago. And so just let's here we go. Listen, years ago I read a book. That was a book called Wild at Heart, and that was John Eldredge or some kind of it sounded some more or less like this. I'll put the link to Amazon's version of the book in the on Facebook and in YouTube, so you'll know what book I'm talking about. And this is really amazing book, and it talks a lot of stuff in about genuine manhood. Although for those of you who are not Christians or not religious at all, you've got to know that this is a Christian book. So just so let you know. But I read this book in I think 2006. That was like 14 years ago. But there were two things that I kind of remembered, and one of those was that the one sentence that he wrote there, that he said about men being involved in church, and he said that basically for most of them, one thing that he sees that none of them is trained or would be even able to defend their own girl or woman. And I remember it was really hard to make me angry. It's really hard to make me mad. But this sentence, oh boy, I remember reading it in public transportation. I was, I think, on a trip to work, on my way to work or something. And I remember I was so mad. I was mad to the point that a few weeks later, I signed up for martial arts school, and I was being actively involved in that school for 13 years. I ended up last September when we moved here to Canada, so I'll have to find something or try to figure out what to do with that. Although that was something that I understood right there on the spot, which kind of it took me to make steps right away because I wanted to change. I couldn't bear that thought that was true. I was not able or capable of defending my girl, and that made me furious. But second thing that he said, that this is how I interpreted, this is how I remember it because it was so long ago. But something that took me years to understand is something that he basically puts in a title, that he painted this picture that we as men, we have a wild heart, and that basically that we need to feed this heart with experiencing some version of wilderness, something that it's outside of our comfort zone, but something that basically is so far in reach that and is so big and so bigger than us that we're afraid of it. Physically we're afraid of it. So for some of you, it might be jumping from the airplane with the parachute, or I don't know, going for hikings, in the mountains in the middle of winter, or some form of I don't know, maybe survival camp or something like this. You see, this is he basically says that you need to experience this because that's how your heart was created, and this is what you kind of drawn to and obsessed, and you cannot kind of not allow yourself to experience that. And if you look close enough, it kind of explains a lot, because there are two ways it's good to look at it. First of all, personally, listen, if you're a guy, you know that this is true. That's why we ride our motorcycles. That's why we go for martial arts schools. That's why we hike or climb the mountains, or this is why we jump with parachutes. This is exactly what kind of drives us to experience something extreme. And this is amazing because if you allow yourself to experience that, it stretches you. It makes you see the horizon, which is much larger than what happens like in day-to-day life. You going to work, you coming back home, you taking care of your wife, you taking care of your children, or doing this or that, planning your weekends. We just need something like this, something crazy. I remember one of my stories of one of my friends. It just popped up in my head. There was a guy who we knew and we loved because he had this crazy stories. He was this kind of guy who just basically did that, all the time. And even though he did crazy things like taking his girlfriend to some natives and spending a week with native tribe without being able to communicate with them, just by drawing or something, and the things that he experienced there, that was crazy. And even locals did not really know that this tribe is living somewhere in an hour or 2 hours from their village. That was crazy. Or maybe that's my confabulation, I don't know, but that was the story. But he said that he met someone who worked in a corporation, and he basically once a year took he was taking his knife and his small backpack, and he was just landing somewhere in complete wilderness. He exited the airplane and was going strictly to the wilderness. He was spending a week there, and then he's coming back. The plane was already there. He was coming back and flying back and working corporation as some director or something. This kind of wilderness is what we need. This what we strive. This is what we long for. This is you know that you need it, and it's amazing experience. And you can look at it from a different point of view, because it might be something towards sports or extreme sports like survival. Like no, I was in that school that I put a link as well down. If you know Polish, I don't remember if they have English version. You can look what's going on there. It's amazing thing. But they were doing camps, and I hope I'll be able to be in one in this year or the next year at least, because I'll have to go back to Poland. But it was a week of going towards craziness. From the early morning to late evening, we were constantly or running or doing exercise or fighting or doing crazy things that I can't even talk about, because I don't want to spoil for anyone who's going to do this. But it might be this kind of thing, like physical, but then it can be creative. If you're more towards the side of me that which photography feels for so many years, doing something like, I don't know, taking someone who's completely had nothing to do with photography, like, or modeling, and just spending 3-4 hours in a studio just making photos, that can stretch you a lot. And I was doing that for many years, and you can see a great photo shoot that we had with one of my friends that kind of pushed me towards publishing those photos on Instagram, just for fun. You can I'll put it down in the comments as well. You could see we just basically talk to each other, that she's an artistic pole dancer, and she loves dancing and this kind of stuff. And I remember thinking, I never did something like this. I never, I did some photo shoots in a studio, just portrait once or something, but I never did sports photography. I never did this kind of thing. So we just talked about it and said, let's just go with it. Let's just have some fun. And we made crazy photos, and we spent 3 or 4 hours there, and it just took us. It felt like 10 minutes, and it stretches you a lot. Doing something out of the ordinary. And interestingly enough, the moment that you're gonna push yourself towards this kind of unknown, whether it's physically or creatively or many other different ways that I don't even able to think about, but this is something that makes you experience and see that you start to feel that you exist, because you pushed yourself forward. You breached another barrier of pain, another barrier of fear, another barrier of your limitations that you thought you'll never be able to pass. And that's when you start to feel that you live. And interestingly, if you take this experience towards your relationship, then you come back home to your wife, to your kids, to your family, then you start to see that whatever kind of vision comes, whatever idea you come up with, or idea to do as a family, you'll be able to manage, and you have zero fear. It kind of points toward what we talked yesterday about, having vision for your family, for your girl. That's exactly that. But you'll be able to manage it and do it only when you kind of push yourself and you open yourself and you open your life to this experience of wilderness. Because I remember when we were planning this whole trip to Canada that we did last September. So we were like, 3, 4, 5 months here in Vancouver, Canada. I remember at the beginning, because when it was like 18 months, or more or less, when I started to share with people that we're going to do something like this. I remember so many of them, interesting idea. But then when time is, passed, and from time to time someone asked me, so what's going on? I said, yeah, everything according to plan. Then when it came to much closer time period, we start to do the trying to take care of the things like buying tickets or booking an Airbnb, because that's how we started for the first month. It started to people started to kind of change how they talked with me, because it started like, wow, interesting idea. But then I said, yeah, the tickets are bought, or we, in a month we're gone. Then people just like start to see that, wow, you're really gonna do this. And it's like, yep, exactly. We planned this for 18 months. For us it was 2 years, but we just made a plan, and we acting on it. And I remember some people said that they're that they really are surprised or amazed that we have the courage to do this. And when I talk with them, it wasn't really the thing that we have courage to do this, because, let's say it straight. Many of you did this probably. You just pack your stuff, you gather enough cash, you just book an apartment, you just, fly over, you just, get into the apartment, start to live day by day. There's nothing about courage here. But what I discovered, which kind of pushes me towards talking about, is that so many people who are not having courage to do anything in their personal life will have the same fear of doing anything in relationships. And interestingly enough, it's all about not really making the change, but making a conscious decision to make the change. Because then the change is a result of your conscious decision. And when I talk with so many people, they were scared of that. At least that's what I feel. And because many times when you ask them, okay, but you're going to stay here, what are you going to do? What's your plan? What are you going to do next year? What's your goals for, let's say, next 3 or 5 years? They don't know. And even small changes, even small things that you could see that they might be thinking because they're interested in this or that, they're afraid of that. They're afraid of change. They're afraid of making conscious change. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, if you want to be this kind of guy who leads your family, leads your lady, and if you want to make this change, you have to start with yourself. Because this is what I want you to take from this video. Everything starts with you admitting and allowing yourself to see that you've got this wild heart. And you basically to push yourself to feed this heart with taste of wilderness. You have to let it feel the blood. You have to let it feel this wind in your face, looking at things that completely scares you to the bone. Like, sitting, at the brink of, or at the edge of the plain, or standing in the mountains and seeing how huge is the thing, and you're just so small. That gives you perspective. And then you'll be able to take it into your relationship. And then every change, like us flying here, I had completely zero fear to do this. And I know it's not Mars. It's not, we did not do anything amazing. But even though so many people, if thinking about it, they were afraid. But you're not afraid if you push yourself in your personal life, and that's what you have to do as a guy. So this is what I want you to take from this video. Everything starts with your ability to push yourself and open yourself to conquer the things which are completely makes you afraid and makes you scared of them. But that's the only way you'll be able to push yourself and then come back to relationship and lead with zero fear. Think about it, do something about it, and see you tomorrow.